I'm here. I know I said 350, but I needed more time to finish watching the game. I had to replay a couple things at the end just so I could watch. Interesting. I made a preview video before this game, and I said that you had to make a decision. Did you think Nebraska was going to clean up the issues that we've seen for the past couple of years, and they finally were going to turn that corner? Or were you trying to understand what Rhule's trying to build and to understand if the team has fully bought in and is ready to overcome the, let's call them focus issues? A lot of us assumed they would overcome the focus issues, and I saw a lot of content being put out before this game that Nebraska was going to roll Northwestern and why they would blow them out. People were commenting that. They're like, oh, Nebraska could put 50 up in this game. I didn't see it. I wouldn't even bet this game, right? I ended up doing it because I'm a total degenerate and I lost, but normally I wouldn't bet a game like this. This is just dumb. This was an emotional play. So I had a feeling that Nebraska was going to come out a bit sloppy. In the last game reaction, it was about Illinois and Heinrich Harburg, and the notes were, can he get us there? Today he got us there, but Northwestern's one of the worst teams we're going to play left on the schedule, right? And I don't want to get too into one player right now. I'm just giving my overall reaction, but that was a thing, the focus issues, the interception early on. It was just kind of a head scratcher. Like, why'd he throw that? The second interception obviously wasn't his fault. It went off Fedoni's hands. But then you had a fumble that was a handoff to, was it Fleeks? Whoever it was. There were just some minor things that needed to be tighter. And I don't know why, but they weren't. And I guess in my prediction video, I had said it was going to be a 10-point win either way. So I was right. But I didn't feel right because I didn't feel like they won in the way that I predicted they would win. They won because they were obviously more talented on defense. I mean, night and day. Their defense is way better than Northwestern's offense. But outside of that, it didn't feel like Nebraska had that much better of an overall team. I guess you could say the special teams was better than Northwestern's, but it was just a little sloppy. That's why I put in my title, Nebraska's sloppy win over Northwestern. Now, here's the thing. There's these comments that I get all the time from this guy, CJ. CJ's probably in the chat right now talking shit. He's always being negative. He's very pessimistic. I've learned that about him, which, whatever. And he always gets in with people in the comments, and he complains about player performances and all that. Here's the thing. Nebraska has who they have. They've got what they've got. So you're either going to support that and be excited for it, and you're not going to set your expectations too high. Remember, we've talked about how if you've got Harburg in, you can't reset expectations to be, well, he started off as a walk-on QB, or not walk-on, he was a scholarship guy, but he was a scholarship guy who didn't have a chance to play. And then he comes to Nebraska this year with the Rhule staff and gets to play quarterback again, gets trained as the backup. I mean, really the third string behind Chuba. And now he's thrown into the fire to be the starter in Big Ten play. 2 or 3 games into the season. You can't change your expectations and say, well, now that he's the starter, we expect him to start and play like a Big Ten quarterback. You don't get to reset your expectations for a player. He's already exceeding expectations. Harburg is doing his best and doing what I would hope he would do in this situation. I can scratch my head, I can complain, I can get frustrated, but guys like CJ, I'm going to call him out directly because he's the biggest pessimist out of everybody. They say these things that are so critical of players and of the coaches and all that. We can't reset expectations. Nebraska is bad. They have been bad. And recently, they're playing above that bad level. They're playing good enough. They're playing serviceable football. And in the Big Ten West, thank God, all you need to do is be serviceable and you can win games. So instead of being negative and talking about all the bad, because there's some frustrating things, remember and acknowledge that there is good. There are players playing above where we would have hoped they played. Emmett Johnson started at running back today. I didn't see that coming. Starts at running back after he fumbled it was the next drive after Anthony Grant or the drive before against Illinois, but he has less fumbles overall. Grant has 3 fumbles on the year. I think Emmett Johnson only had once. They said, you're going to get the start today. He did good. He came into the year as the number 4 running back. Today, he's the starter. So where do you set the expectation for him, right? I'm not going to set an expectation, but he ran for 73 yards on 12 carries. It's pretty damn good. So over 5 yards a carry. My point in all of this being, I know the offense is bad. I know that when I go and look at chat, I haven't looked at chat yet. I already know our offense sucks. Our offense is bad. Bench Harburg for Sims, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But thank God they're playing in the Big Ten West and not the SEC or the Pac-12, where they can still win games by being serviceable. You look at some of the other games today. before we continue on, I already know you guys are watching them. I obviously don't have a TV pulled up. Minnesota is up 2 on Iowa with 1 minute left. It looks like they're about to give the ball back. Oof. And then where's the Wisconsin one? I know you guys all have all these pulled up and you're watching them. Lucky to be you. I'm sitting here working while you guys get to watch football. Wisconsin's up 3. Okay, so Wisconsin won. Regardless, even if Iowa was to win, and since Wisconsin did win, Nebraska still controls their destiny. They took a step forward today. They're 4-3. They're better off under Rhule than where I think a lot of people expected after those first 2 games, the first 2 losses that were so frustrating and so embarrassing. So, positive note, 4-3. Positive note, in contention for the Big Ten West. Positive note, there are still a lot of healthy players on the team, even though there are a lot of injuries. We'll talk about those in a second. And positive note, Nebraska looks to be in great position to get to a bowl game. So I'm happy. I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell. My face is red. I'm stressed out. I've been busy, like I told you guys. And I sat down today to watch this game. And the entire time, my heart's going. The whole time. I'm just like, fuck, this is so, it's very nerve-wrenching. And it makes me feel tight the entire time, and I don't like it. And it goes back to the days when Nebraska would play these close games, and they would lose them. Now I get to be on the other end where I can at least breathe a sigh of relief at the end, because before it was always they lost, and then there was no alleviated pressure. It was just more pressure packed on, Anyway, I'm going to get up to the chat. Sorry for rambling, guys. My heart's been racing. I got to get it out. Ardwin, thank you for the $5. Offense struggles due to injuries and a third-string QB, but defense picks up the slack. That's all you can ask for. That's it. Talk about injuries, man. How deep can they go? We're starting to play freshmen now, right? Justin Evans-Jenkins came in at center for Ben Scott. That first drive, he did well. He had the very first play, he had 2 great blocks. He had one, he shed off that guy, and then he had another one for whoever the running back was to help him get through the hole. I think it was Fleeks. Then you had Ethan Piper go down, another big piece because he's such a big leader. Then Billy Kemp, number 1 receiver, goes down. Who knows the extent of all those injuries? Let's say one of them is out for the season. I don't know, but let's assume one's out for the season. The other one, how long is he going to be out? I mean, it's just, how deep do you go? Today, thank God, Malachi Coleman. And people were talking about Malachi Coleman last night in my preview video. We were talking about hot takes or bold predictions for this game. And they said, Malachi Coleman over 100 yards receiving. And I made a comment, and I obviously said that sounds a little bit ridiculous. To get Malachi Coleman over 100 yards receiving, he would need to have a bomb. He would need to have some big play to open something up, because he's not the type of receiver who's going to have, 12 catches. He's going to have a few catches, and hopefully there's one big explosive opportunity. He got the opportunity. Heinrich Harburg came to the rescue and hit him when it mattered most. Vince Lindenmeyer sent me this. He said, donate $7 to the Fly Like Kai org foundation in honor for his first touchdown. So I'm going to donate to this. I'll donate $7 after I'm done with the stream. If you guys want to donate to that, you can go to Vince's Twitter and click that link right there, flylikekai.org/donate. I know Malachi does a lot of positive for the community, and he's trying to build his brand a little bit differently than a lot of other influential people do, because he's, been through a lot, and he's trying to make sure that other people are supported. So shout out to Malachi for exploding on the scene as a true freshman. But Nebraska needs more of that. They need more true freshmen to step up. Jaden Doss came in the game today. I didn't see Jalen Lloyd out there, but they're going to have receivers who are ready to play, because, these injuries are freaking insane on offense. You go to defense, it started off fantastic. I mean, the entire game was fantastic, but the tone was set out the gate. Hutmacher had 2 sacks pretty early on. I think it was like the first drive of the game. He had one to end the drive, and he had another one a couple drives later. Overall, the defense, I think, had like 8 sacks, but you can't say enough positive about the defense. That's the crazy part of this, right? The defense is so damn good and so helpful in almost every scenario. I mean, whatever position you put them in, they're finding a way to get it done. Another position, they put themselves in a bad position, more specifically Malcolm Hartzog, but Malcolm Hartzog recovered, held the Northwestern offense to 3 points. Deep left sideline, bomb across the field from Sullivan to, was it Kurtz? Whoever. Hartzog runs him down, stops him inside the 10-yard line. They go to 3rd down. Hartzog comes up, makes the tackle on, I think it was a screen play or something like that, or a little out route, whatever it was. Hartzog recovered twice, held Northwestern to 3 points. Plays like that is why this defense is so solid. The scoring D is really good. Obviously, the red zone D is getting better. There's a lot of positives to take away from the defense. So just thank God they're there, because if the Nebraska defense wasn't this dominant, things wouldn't be looking as positive going forward. I'm going to pull up the stats for this because I haven't looked at the stats yet. I just ran over to my computer. Let me refresh the page, do a little screen share with you. Okay. Harburg, morbid. I mean, this is Iowa stats right here. 8 passes for 85 yards and 2 interceptions. God. And then add in the fumbles. I don't even want to talk about those. But in the run game, Nebraska almost got to 200 yards. That's a positive. Receivers, Fedoni. Oh, yeah. What do you say? I catch the ball. I mean, that sucked. I feel bad for Fedoni. I root for him probably more than anybody else on the team. I love Fedoni. I want to see him bounce back, but today was a bad game for him. And it felt like his trajectory was kind of like this. It was going up, 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 up. And then today's game, it was down, 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 down. Rough day. But it's okay. He'll bounce back. Malachi Coleman led with 44 yards receiving. How the hell do you end up the receiving leader on the team if you have 1 catch for 44 yards? That's winning football in the Big Ten West. Fumbles. Billy Kemp got absolutely cracked. Josh Fleeks and Heinrich Harburg. I mean, at least they got them all back. Nebraska was very aware and alert. That's the positive there. You look at the sacks. How many? 8? Jesus. Nash Hutmacher, 2.5 sacks. Big day for him. I made that video during bye week, and I said, here are the rankings for the top single-digit players. Nash was my number 2, and a lot of people disagreed with that. I had Gifford at number 1. Now, it's tough. Gifford's a leader in his role. Obviously, Nash is a centerpiece of the entire defense. Today, Gifford, after Nash hit his big 3 or 4 plays, Gifford stepped up. There was a play out of the backfield. I think it was a screen pass or whatever. Gifford chased down the running back, shed a block off a lineman who's like, 6'7", blocking him, and Gifford comes up with the open field tackle to force 4th down. So there are just a lot of big playmakers on this defense, and again, thank God Nebraska has them. They're going to win them a lot of games. I got to go back to the scores. I don't know what's going on. Looks like Minnesota's going to win. I mean, there's still 49 seconds. I don't know what's going on. You guys can tell me. But looks like Wisconsin and Minnesota will win. Crazy. Corey, thank you for the $20. Got to work tonight. Need a nap. Have a great show. Coleman, the diaper is off. I hope nobody is hurt too bad. I think Rhule cleans up the sloppy stuff this week and we look better. I mean, I pray he cleans up the sloppy stuff this week, but it doesn't feel like that's the plan going forward. It feels like you try and put Band-Aids where you can, except that some of your biggest playmakers are going to make some of the biggest mistakes. And as long as you can limit those mistakes to some degree, you can still win the games they've got to play in because the teams aren't all that good. So that's the good news. Hey, shout out to Adam Carricker and Carricker Chronicles for sponsoring our show. I know you guys have subscribed to his channel. I know you guys have gone over and checked out his website, but make sure if you haven't seen his post-game reaction, or I'm sure it's up by now, but if you haven't gone and checked it out, after you watch mine, you can go to Adam Carricker at Carricker Chronicles 90 on YouTube, and you can watch his game reaction. Like I said, he's a really great sponsor for our show to help me get up a bunch of content. Starlight Record Club, how many Big Ten teams can lose to each other? Any team in the Big Ten West can beat the other. It's sick. Illinois coming out of nowhere and having 2 big games back to back. I mean, they almost won today. Wolfman, thank you for the $5. Glad we won. What do you think about the Michigan team being investigated? I don't know. I honestly don't look too much into that stuff because I think a lot of it's nonsense. Harburg's got to be pissed off about that. Harbaugh already wants to leave Michigan and go to the NFL. Now he's got the NCAA on his ass even more. If I was him, I'd be pissed. I would freaking take a lesser job in the NFL at this point. Just take anything to get out because they're on him. And Michigan, what? They're cheating? They're going watching practices from who? All the teams they're blowing out? It's just, I don't know. A lot of it sounds ridiculous. J-Man says it's absolutely criminal how soft Nebraska's schedule is. It is criminal, but I love it and I appreciate it. It's freaking fantastic. I'll accept it because right now where Nebraska is and the hand they've been dealt for the last 10 years, all the bad luck, all the key injuries, all the nonsense they've gone through, we finally caught a break. It all evens out eventually over time. And this is one of those moments that helps us get back to even. Think of it that way. Ah, man, my heart's still racing. Shane, thank you for the $2. Positive note, we took a knee, unlike Miami. See, at least these coaches have common sense. At least they know to not give out free wins. So what happened? So Wisconsin won, Iowa lost. Is that where we're sitting? Yeah, Minnesota wins. Wow. Okay, so let's check the Big Ten standings. Let's see what the vibe is. I was waiting till those games ended to go and refresh this. Okay. Wow. So Nebraska is sitting tied with Minnesota now. And Minnesota still has to play Ohio State. Iowa still has to play Nebraska. Wisconsin still has to play Ohio State. Minnesota actually has to play, let me see. Let's just check in on this because now it matters. Minnesota's got to play Ohio State, Illinois, who's becoming a problem, Wisconsin. I mean, all these teams are knocking each other out. How great is this? I can't believe we're sitting over halfway through the season and Nebraska's still in the West contention. It's like, what the hell? And Illinois is officially dead. I mean, and Illinois is one of the better teams. Illinois is one of the better teams now on this back end stretch, and they have no chance to win it. So they could go out and win any of these games, and we're all going to be happy and supportive of them. Same with Purdue. Nebraska just needs to hold up their end of the deal. Next week is going to be a crucial game against Purdue. Focusing right now on this one, but next week is going to be crucial, especially because it's at home. What's this say? Rolo Paulo says, who the hell is James Williams? You know, I think we all thought, who the hell is James Williams? You know, he had a sack there at the end of the game. Was he a walk-on? He's a junior college guy from, I think, Iowa Western or something like that. Hadn't played in a single game this year. He's like 6'5", defensive end. And I guess he earned a role, which is crazy to think about. Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, this guy James Williams now, Blaze Gunnerson, Jamari Butler. Think of all these guys who've played edge, and maybe Gunnerson's inside. But regardless, there's so many edge rushers. And now they pull another one from nowhere. Tony White is special. That's all we got to say. Let me see here. Craig's, thank you for the $5. In past years, we lose these types of close games over and over again. Now we're winning them. Fans need to focus on the progress. That's what I'm saying. That's why I came in here with a different mentality today. You know, it's one thing to get emotional over a team who's underperforming. It's one thing to go after a Texas A&M who recruits all the best players around the country, has, you know, multi-million-dollar coaches on mega contracts, and then when they win 4 games, fans get, or when they win 5 games or whatever it is, however many they win, fans get pissed off. That's one thing. But when you're Nebraska, who's in rebuild mode and who, you know, is only expected to win 6 anyway, and has lost all these key guys to injury, and all of the swings have gone against us early on, you have to be grateful when things do go your way. And no matter what the way is, it's as long as it happens, you can be happy. You can be positive. There's something to take away from it that will make you smile and go to bed a little bit less restless. You'll still have a chance to go to a bowl game. You'll still have a chance to win the Big Ten. I mean, there's Big Ten West. There's just so many positives to look at. It's hard for me as a person who is optimistic to even look at it or view it in that light. You know, I'm not going to sit here and complain. You guys have seen me get upset and get really frustrated after shitty losses, but I'm not going to get upset after rough wins or sloppy wins. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to accept that that's where we are in the process of the game. And these are baby steps forward. Is that fair? I think it's fair. There's no reason to get uptight and over-emotional over nonsense. I'm scrolling down the chat, guys. I'm getting all caught up. Brandon has a really good comment to support my statement. What are we so upset about? A 17-9 Big Ten win? That's the thing. I'm going to say it again because I think it's so important, and I know there are a lot of new people watching now that I didn't get to say this to before. We cannot change our expectations based on the hand we were dealt. Meaning, Nebraska has lost, let's count it, 7, including today. They've lost 7 starters on the offense. Okay? That's massive. They've dug deep into their depth. They're playing true freshmen and guys who've never played before, right? You're playing a quarterback who was supposed to be 3rd string going into the season. And now we're complaining that he's fumbling the ball and throwing interceptions. Why are we complaining? That's the expectation. That's what he's supposed to do. That's why he was the third string quarterback. And then you add in the fact that he's not even playing with the original first team offense. What's the complaint? He just went out and won a game. Same thing with all the other guys. The offense is, bad. But the fact that they're winning games, the fact that they're doing their job to the best of their ability says something. I'll be very defensive of these players right now. They're doing things that they aren't expected to be doing. Nebraska, if you would have told most Vegas people who set the line before the season and said Nebraska was going to get to 6 wins, Vegas would have shifted that to like 4 wins if they would have known these injuries were coming or if they would have known Harburg was starting, right? So you have to be fair in your expectations. Nebraska's 4-1 with Heinrich Harburg at quarterback. Now, I haven't even looked at the comments yet or the chat, but I know what the response is going to be. It's not the offense, it's the defense. I get that, but they're playing complementary football to some degree. They're doing just enough. It's positive. Chris, thank you for the $2 super chat. Get your polar bear sack money yet. Forgot about the polar bear sack money. No, I have not. Todd isn't here. If he was here, he would have sent it, but he's not here. He's probably out there on the farm right now, working. It wasn't pretty, but all that matters at the end of the day is that it's a W on the scorecard. It's a fact. You live to fight another day. Livewire, thank you for the $5. Does Nebraska break the top 25 this year? Man, they obviously it's in play. Let's look at the path. Go to Nebraska. Here's the path. They're 4-3. Purdue would get them to 5-3. Michigan State would get them to 6-3. At that point, I think they're a borderline top 25 team if they can win those 2 games. Borderline. I'm not sure if it would be enough to break in. If they were able to win those 2 and beat Maryland, they are confirmed a top 25 team at 7-3 on the road at Wisconsin. So that's the path. Win 2 more games and they're in the top 25. That's not the goal, though. You know, Matt Rhule's all about 1 week at a time. Go 1-0. They accomplished the goal this week. Played like shit and still went 1-0. Next week, can you play, just a little bit better? And I think they'll beat Purdue. Purdue's on bye this week. What do they think about what they watched from Nebraska? Geez, Northwestern did a great job on defense, huh? To start the game, I saw a bunch of tweets. Why aren't we running the ball more with Harburg? Why aren't they running it? Northwestern was shutting it down. They had a QB spy. They were bringing creative blitzes. They were on top of it. There was no option. You had to throw it. Now, did they have to throw as aggressively, like open the game up with a pass? Probably not. But they knew Northwestern's going to stack the box and they're going to try to stop the run because they know that's what we like to do. Well, guess what? The coaching call was fantastic to start the game. They went with Harburg on 2 routes. One to the inside for Fedoni. One to the outside. Was it for Alex Bullock? Both were open. It was an execution error. Play call, great. Execution, F, right? So this has nothing to do with the comment. I got on a tangent. But Nebraska couldn't run the ball today as well as they've been able to in the past because they played a really good run defense, which we didn't know existed for Northwestern. Northwestern spent the bye week readjusting and changing a lot of what they've been doing over the past few weeks that hasn't been working. Remember, they have a defensive coordinator, well, really a head coach who acts as a defensive coordinator, who came from North Dakota State, who was an FCS national champion 2 years and a runner-up 1 year. He knows how to build defenses out. He knows how to adjust things. They have 2 really strong inside backers. And yeah, they figured it out. We knew they were going to be a different team coming off the bye, just like I hope Nebraska would have been a different team coming off the bye. They weren't, but yeah, it's hard to run against them. So a lot of the comments talking about why didn't Nebraska run the ball more? Because they couldn't. Because Northwestern stopped it. Because Northwestern knew what was coming. There were opportunities to throw the ball, and they took the chances. They trusted in their quarterback. Now, do they trust him too much? Maybe a little too much, but it is what it is. Jacob, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate you for the support. Michael, thank you for the $5. The 8-point difference was due to our DBs catching up with players who broke away and were going for TDs instead of field goals. Interesting. It is. The defense saved themselves. I talked about it earlier. Malcolm Hartzog saved his ass. He got beat on the outside on like a not a reverse, but it was a cross the field throw. Hartzog tracks him down, gets him inside the 10, and then Hartzog on the opposite side of the field stops him on 3rd and whatever it is, 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. Forces a field goal. That's the difference in the game. Plays like that. Defense is reliable. Defense is trusted. Most importantly, defense just keeps getting deeper. I mean, guys coming out of nowhere. Taman Lynham, that's a perfect example. Hasn't played at all this year. Had a huge stop on special teams. Speaking of special teams, I'm sorry, I get on so many tangents. God. Speaking of special teams, Tristan Alvano. Well, how long was his field goal kick? I got to check it. Shout out to Tristan Alvano. 47 yards. Let's freaking go. I mean, for a guy who was 1 of 5 to start the year and then to knock down his 47-yard attempt today, and I think it was going into the wind. It was going into the wind. Shout out to Tristan. These are the type of plays you have to make if you're going to win football games, and he did it. Brian Buschini had a 55-yard punt that they were able to track down and tackle the guy within like the 10-yard or within the 10-yard line, somewhere in that range. Maybe it was the 8, whatever. 287 yards punting today. 7 punts. If you're going to punt that often, you better have a good punter. He had 4 of his 7 punts down inside the 20. So, yeah, special teams is great. I mean, the only issue with this team is the focus on offense. It's the only issue. If they were a little bit more locked in, more focused, less, skittish, didn't drop as many balls, didn't screw themselves, like when Harburg had the ball at 2nd and 10 and then or 2nd and 8, whatever it was, and then dropped the snap and had to fall on it. Right there, that could have been a first down play or at least gotten them into position for a first down, but instead it was a 3 and out. So, yeah. It is what it is, though, like I said. Can't get too frustrated about it. Greg, thank you for being a member. I appreciate the support. Evan, thank you for the $5. Thank you for being a member. Nebraska wins. Iowa loses. I'd call that a nice football day, ugly or not. GBR for life. And that's the way you got to look at it. It's a positive day. One step closer to winning the West. Josh says, we got so many sacks today. Northwestern offensive line looks terrible. They are terrible. Their backup quarterback looked better than I thought he would. Their receivers were actually pretty good. Their running back was okay. I think their running back ran for how many? Running back ran for 63. The other one ran for 20. I mean, it's a decent outing, but they rushed for 81 yards in total. Threw for 176. That's what you're going to expect when you play against Nebraska because they're going to shut you down on the run, and that's all you're going to be able to do. What's the time of possession? I think it was pretty equal, like 29 to 30. Yep. Penalties. Where's that? Nebraska only had 3 for 30 yards. That's great. Overall, I mean, it was a decent showing. 1 interception by Harburg that was his fault. I mean, it's hard to complain, man. It's hard to complain. Red Wine says we need a Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma type transfer QB and a non-injury workhorse running back to replace Grant. Yeah, that's talking about next year. There's a lot of time to talk about next year. You know what the beauty is about this year? The beauty about this year is I don't have to fast forward to next year. I can just talk to you guys about the now. Because there's hope. There's belief that we can do something bigger than win 4 games, right? So last year and the year before, I made a living talking about the future. Literally, I made a living in October of 2022 talking about what would happen in October of 2023 because that was all we could talk about. That was all there was hope for. It was like this season's dead, so what's next? How frustrating and how sad and pathetic is that at a university like Nebraska? Ugh. But now we get to talk about the moment. Feels freaking good. I can't wait for a video this week. I don't know what I'll talk about. I haven't thought that far ahead. Obviously, I'm going to talk about some of the games from today, but it just feels good to be able to be engaged in this season. It feels good to be able to pay attention to what's going on now. It's fun to be able to respond to comments. What would it take to get to the top 25? Because that exists still. There's a world where we could get there. Nebraska snaps a home Big Ten home losing streak. They were losing all their home games against Big Ten teams. They finally snapped that. I mean, there's just so much positive to talk about. So, yeah. Josh says it was a textbook Big Ten win. I love how we closed out the half. Haven't seen that in a while. That's true. They did close out the half well. Woogie says, I think we'll beat both Iowa and Wisconsin this year. It's who freaking knows is going to be tough. You've got 2 teams who are 1 week they're solid, 1 week they're miserable. And Yeah, Nebraska can win any game they play in. I think that's the positive here. Judy says we'd be having an entirely different conversation if we weren't 86 starters down. Yeah, think about what this team would look like if they still had a lot of guys healthy. I mean, we're down 7 offensive starters right now. Jeff Sims didn't pan out. That's a question. Will Jeff Sims ever reemerge? Based on how Haarberg played today, is Haarberg's performance good enough? Do they think that there's some upside to Haarberg that Sims doesn't have, vice versa, and that's why we're not going to see Sims? It's interesting. I don't really care at this point. There is no in my head, there is no upside with Jeff Sims in the current situation. He's a little bit more accurate of a passer, but he's just as turnover prone as Haarberg, right? He's the same runner. And actually, I'd argue that Haarberg's a little bit less turnover prone. So there's that. Rodrigo's chiming in from South America, from Chile. I like that. I didn't know they got Nebraska games down in Chile. Fluffy says, it's crazy how our 5-star tight end lets balls go through his hands. And I'm a huge fan of Fedoni too. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I told you I reassessed where where Thomas Fedoni stands. I don't look at him as the same guy he was 2 years ago. You know, he's taken a 2-year break from football. Think about that. A 2-year break. He's gone through 2 major injuries. He's a different player. He's still good. The expectations are still high, but he's not the number 1 tight end in the country anymore. He's the number 1 tight end in the country post 2 major knee injuries, right? Post a staff change, post a quarterback situation that's, been a little awkward. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not tight on Fedoni. I really wish he would have caught more of those balls, but he's been good. He's been efficient. He's been enough so far this year. He's going to bounce back, I'm sure. He's not going to drop as many balls going forward. And, he's good for 40, 50 yards a game usually. And we probably would have gotten that out of him today if he would have caught those balls that went through his hands. So he had, I don't know how many drops he had, but he had like at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 3, whatever. Livewire says, I don't know. Maybe if we get ahead enough in the game to allow Sims to come in and see if he's still valid, I'd put him in. Otherwise, I'd say stay with Haarberg. What's interesting is, who told me this? Someone texted me this. I can't remember who it was. I get a lot of texts during games, a lot of them. Which I can't respond to all the texts during games, guys. Can't do it. It's hard because I'm trying to watch the game because I got to go on here and talk about the game after. So I can't get sidetracked. But could you imagine a world where you had Heinrich Haarberg and Jeff Sims back in there in the pocket? How would that look? One of them blocking potentially for the other one, and then switching and one passing and one blocking would be interesting. It would remind me a little bit of like a Madden. You can just flip players in wherever you want and play. But is Jeff Sims eventually going to be called upon to go out there and play running back or receiver, tight end, or do something? Is he being wasted on the sideline? That's a question that I think is going to have to be asked pretty soon here. Now that Billy Kemp's hurt, who knows how long he'll be down. I know that there's not going to be much I can take away from the Matt Rhule presser. That's why I don't go and watch the Matt Rhule presser before I come and do these live streams. I just get straight to the stream and watch the presser later. But I'd really like to know what's up with the injury situation. 3 guys went down today who are all key pieces. When you lose 2 guys on your offensive line that's already going through it, and when they're 2 of your best guys on the offensive line that's already going through it, raises questions for the back end. And then you got Kemp, who's their number 1 receiver. God, how can they get through the season? Haarberg's only loss is still Michigan. Very hard to replace him right now, and that's kind of the point. It's kind of the point. Not gonna happen. They're gonna keep him for now. Nicholas, thank you for the $5. Was a pleasant surprise by Emmett Johnson. Thought he looked great. Sorry to see Piper go down. Huge blow. Was a pleasant surprise by Emmett Johnson. I thought he held the ball well. He held it kind of like how Haarberg does, high and tight. He wasn't going to let anything get punched out. He ran hard right up the middle. He ran vertical, not horizontal. So that was good to see. And, he's a younger guy. He's a smaller guy. So, again, you got to not set expectations as this guy's a starting running back in the Big Ten. This is a guy who's been thrown into the fire. He was a 4th stringer 2 months ago. or a month and a half ago. And today he's the starter against Northwestern, who's a team who Nebraska got beat by last year. So, yeah, shout out to Emmett Johnson and pray for Ethan Piper. Harburg is our most productive running back. That's pretty funny. It's true. It's funny to think about that, though. I would have never thought that Anthony Grant wouldn't show up and perform how I thought he would. He's not getting as many opportunities, obviously, because he's fumbling, but, that's part of the game. You got to not fumble. Guys, the volleyball game's on tonight. I haven't watched it, haven't even looked at it. You guys know how I feel about volleyball. I'm interested, but not interested enough to learn how it works. Got a lot of other things going on, so it's hard for me to pay attention to all of them. But I'm rooting for Nebraska to beat Wisconsin. They're playing the number 1 team in the country, right? Number 1 versus number 2. Pretty big deal. I know a lot of people are watching that. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to go watch more football. I'm going to pack because I got to move tonight. And, yeah, I just got to get back on with my life because things don't stop even when Nebraska gets a win. But I'll be back with content this week. I'm excited for it because there's a lot to look forward to. Like I said, keep your head up. It was sloppy, but a win's a win. We got to have a half glass full mentality. It's a positive situation, not a, oh, we need Band-Aids. We need to fix this shit. No, it's okay. They're going to do what they can do. What's cool about all this is they're putting a lot of guys in who are younger. They're putting in a lot of the inexperienced guys in to get them caught up. And once they do get caught up, they're going to be able to make long-term impacts on this team. And it's going to be great for their development. So some people say, well, what if the team starts to fail? What if they start to suck? At what point do you just bench the starters and put the backups in? Well, naturally, you don't have to. Naturally, injuries occur. Guys want new opportunities and they work harder in practice. And then the coaches have to put them in. So naturally, we're getting to see a lot of what the future is looking like already. I don't want to say the future is bright, but it feels pretty good right now in Nebraska. Guys, thank you for being here. I'm going to be back, like I said, I'm going to try to do a video Monday, maybe Tuesday. We'll see. But until then, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for being here. As I said already, go Big Red.